What a play called by Tom Izzo in that timeout.
I was 7 years old watching a football game by myself, and I saw those winged helmets come out of the tunnel, and I was hooked at that point.
Kane in Chicago!
Oh my God!
Kane with the overtime winner!
Jameer Gibbs to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. You can't cover that man one-on-one. You just can't do it.
He drives, lobs to JD for a jam.
You play real good, you start. You don't play as good, you work your way back in. It's the American way, except America has gotten soft. But that is the American way. That's the way it works.
This is the 6-6 Kane Cunningham!
Jameson Williams, he's got it. Touchdown, Lions.
This is one of the many things I love about sports. Who would have expected? You know what I mean? It's one of those situations where you look at a lineup, you look at a player, you look at a team, and you think to yourself, no way. Why would a guy who's batted about 186 with 2 strikes on him and 2 outs get a fastball that he could pull over the fence? Oh, and that same guy, by the way, just 3 home runs on the season. And yet he comes up with one of, I'm not saying it's the biggest, because that would be probably way too hyperbolic, but one of the biggest home runs, biggest hits of the season. Welcome, everybody. X's and Bros throughout the state of Michigan on a Friday morning. We're brought to you this hour by Mitch Lyons Wealth and MitchLyonsWealth.com. Tigers get the RBI single from Dylan Dingler, who has, as Bill Simonson and I mentioned yesterday, as we were hanging out with Huge at 8:35, and the Huge opinion that Dylan Dingler's been their most consistent and best player all year. He'd be their team MVP. How's that? Fair enough. He gets the RBI single in the 8th to beat the Royals 4-3. James Outman hit a 3-run blast in the 7th. His 4th homer of the season. Who would have thought that? Didn't have any homers with Minnesota. Last year with Minnesota, he had a total of 4. The year before, in 2025, he hit a total of 6 with 2 different teams, the Dodgers and Minnesota. Most home runs he ever hit in one single season was at the age of 26 in 2023 when he hit 23. He is not a power hitter. He is not a home run hitter. 38 home runs, now 39 in his career. No, 38. It's crazy. It's kind of like the storylines of watching a Super Bowl and suddenly Jim Plunkett at the age of 33 in 1980 wins the MVP, throws for 261 yards and 3 touchdowns to beat the Eagles. The year before, Jim Plunkett played just 4 games. Dexter Jackson, named MVP of a Super Bowl. Nick Foles, named MVP of a Super Bowl. Chuck Howley, who was a decorated player. I mean, he was a multi-all-pro player, a multi-Pro Bowl player. But he was the only he's the only player on a losing team to ever be named MVP of a Super Bowl. And he did that for Dallas. How unlikely. Willie McGee winning the MVP of a league. It's crazy. Raleigh Fingers in 1981 when he made history. A strike-shortened season, but still. Relief pitcher wins the MVP. Who would have thought of that? It's the beauty of why perhaps many of us watch sports in the first place, follow sports in the first place, because you don't know what you're going to get. There could be a hero in there somewhere. It's beautiful. Detroit, by the way, has won 14 of their last 19. Okay. They are now within 5 games of 500. They sit 6 back in the division, 4 away from the final wild card. How close is close enough for you? This is what I don't mind it about baseball because it's bound to happen. It's one of I know basketball and hockey and football have the same thing, but in baseball, it's so much more highlighted. When you talk about the trade deadline, it's almost like we're the store. It's September, and we're pushing Christmas already. That's what we do in sports radio, sports television. The trade deadline becomes a massive, major focus for a month before it's even here. And the speculation runs rampant. It wasn't long ago where we all thought that the Boston Red Sox were going to be a massive seller. Suddenly they win 15 in a row. Had it snapped to the nightcap doubleheader 2 nights ago. And everybody's looking at it like, wow, they're 2 up in the final wild card. They've got a 2-game lead for the final wild card over Seattle. So they're going to be buyers. That's how quickly things can change. So how do we feel about the Tigers situation? I would argue even July 1st, not June 1st, because we harped a lot on how good they've been since June 1st. I would argue even July 1st, most people said they are going to sell. Sell Tarek Skubal, sell Casey Mize, sell Jack Flaherty, sell Kenley Jansen, sell Gleyber Torres. Get as much as you can and reboot. Let's get the young kids up here. I think most people felt that way. I wonder how many people have changed their mind. Now, remember, I've always said this. One of the hardest things to do in life is to change your mind. But I wonder how many people truly will change their mind now that Detroit has really gone on this nice little run. And you can sense the confidence that this team has and that the fan base now has in it. In addition to that, you've got more and more players openly talking about it, which I think is great. I mean, they weren't talking about that during a 7-game slide in May. You wouldn't expect them to. They say some boring quotes, and that's a good thing. Like, we take it 1 game at a time. That we like one another, that we believe in one another. There's a lot of teams that go through that, right? So what? The results are what matter most. Kansas City, by the way, who had won 3 in a row coming in, just blew their best chance at winning a game in the series. In all likelihood, I think Detroit sweeps this series. Suddenly, you'd be 2 games within 500. Can you really sell then? Perhaps. You could sell a piece. You probably wouldn't sell multiple pieces. Answer me this. Which team do you think truly, I mean, deep down in your heart, you follow baseball, you think you know the game really well. Which team, by far and away, are you convinced is going to represent the American League? I'm not telling you Detroit is. I'm just asking you. Do you think it's Tampa? Has Tampa had a history of adding any big names at the trade deadline that you can think of? Do you think it's the Yankees? They've had a rich history of doing just that. And they've been able to do a pretty damn good job, 12 games over 500, of playing meaningful baseball games, staying in this thing, despite missing the best player in the league. One of the best players in the league, Aaron Judge. I suppose you could make a case, for Bobby Witt Jr., who's not playing, or Jose Ramirez, who now is back with Cleveland, who suddenly is 1.5 back because they've lost back-to-back games. Do you really think the 2 teams, well, there are 3 teams ahead of you, but I don't think anybody gives any credence to Minnesota, with all due respect to Minnesota. They're 1.5 better than you are, but nobody fears Minnesota. Nobody fears Chicago or Cleveland either. I'd remind you, we didn't fear Cleveland the last 2 years and they won the division. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline is 866-838-4843. You can text us, Sports Radio 21,000. Join us in the chat as we stream live on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Some comments from Tarek Skubal, who talked to the media for about 10, 15 minutes prior to the game yesterday. This is X's and Bros, brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
Rod Stewart returns to Soaring Eagle Thursday, September 3rd. The Soaring Eagle Summer Outdoor Concert Series with special guest Richard Marks. Tickets start at $71 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com. One last time, Rod Stewart with Richard Marks, September 3rd, SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Summer is made for road trips and lake dips. Shop at Meijer with M-Perks and fuel your summer with savings up to $1 per gallon on your next tank of gas. For nearly every dollar you spend on items like travel snacks, groceries, sunscreen, and more, you'll earn M-Perks points. The more you shop, the more your points add up, and the more you save at the pump. Turn your summertime snack cravings into fuel savings, only at Meijer. Savings per gallon based on points redeemed. Fuel rewards not valid in Wisconsin. Max 30 gallons. See mperks.com for details.
Make ways for a great cause at Stand Up for the Cure Lakeshore paddleboarding event at Ross Park in Norton Shores on Saturday, July 25th. You can grab your paddleboard and your sunscreen to raise critical funds for breast cancer research and awareness programs. Register for Stand Up for the Cure at suftc.org.
I thought that we were trending in the right direction throughout this whole process. I had a hiccup in January that I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was just some different soreness. I'd never dealt with anything like that before. And we were trending the right way. That's the reason there was no MRI. There was no discussion of an MRI. We were trending the right way. And I continue to make starts, and I continue to be a good player. And I felt like I was, doing our team a good job. And then had that incident in Atlanta, and the next 2 days weren't great. And that's why I decided to have an MRI and have the surgery. That whole thing was blown out of proportion, and that's fine. I get it. But a lot of it is not true and not factual. Just that whole me denying an MRI. I just don't even need to address it, to be honest, because I'm not going to play that game with you guys.
Okay. Welcome back, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. Look, there's no reason to rehash what we talked about much of yesterday. I'm sure Billy did as well. And I'm sure there are a lot of people throughout the state, throughout the country, who did the same thing. Talked about the Tarek Skubal article. It's a really good article. Here's my question, though, for him. He says it's taken out of context. It's quotes. These are quotes. It was his quote who said, if I could go back, I probably should have got an MRI in January and hammered it out to where I was done with it in the offseason. That's his quote. That's not an interpretation by the writer. But there were also other factors in play, period. I was going through arbitration, period. The decision by the organization to take me to court, comma, I think that probably had some impact subconsciously, period, end quote. How is it taken out of context? You might be thinking people are interpreting it differently than you wanted it interpreted. It's not taken out of context. These are direct quotes from you. So we don't have to go through it and rehash it all over again. It's a really good soundbite, what he said yesterday addressing the media, but I don't. We can blame the media for a lot of things. That's okay. Okay, the media deserves to be blamed for a lot of things. You don't think there's a bias in the media? You haven't been paying attention. In all kinds of different directions, I might add. Okay, one-sidedness over the other. But this is hard. This is really hard to blame the writer on when you're using quotes. Okay? When he says those direct words, when that's the quote, he didn't have a problem with him saying, I understand where I'm at in my career. I understand how public everything that's happened in my career has been. The fans want to engage. There's some clickbait, y'all, headlines with the media has to write. That's the media's job. I get it. Do I agree with all of them? No, but I get it. We don't take that out of context, do we? And by the way, there's no clickbait media here on this headline in The Athletic. When the headline is Tarek Skubal is the main character of MLB's trade deadline. He's learned to embrace the spotlight. There's no negativity there. If anything, that's a really positive headline for him. He's the one who made the quotes, unless they misquoted him. Guaranteed the writer has the copy of it and can prove it. You said what you said. Own it. It's not being taken out of context. You're the one who said, do it all over again. Should have got an MRI. He's going to pitch tonight. He throws against Noah Cameron. And in all likelihood, he'll win tonight. Because of how good he is, because of how bad the Royals are, but also because he's pissed. Don't be mad that Tiger fans are pissed. Because they're pissed at what you said Not what the writer interpreted, not what the writer surmised, not what the writer opinionated or opined. It's because of what you said that then began a conversation. I've always found it funny. I mean, athletes say things. The reason they grant interviews is because they're willing to tell a story. They say something, and then they get ticked off because it becomes a topic of discussion. That's what articles are. They're to inform and create opinion and create a discussion. Here's our Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question. We have one for you every single day. Have the Pistons done enough in the offseason to be better than they were a year ago? In so many words, okay? Yes or no? The Pistons roster right now, is it as good or better than it was a year ago? Yes or no? Vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. We'll give you the results in the final 8 o'clock hour on Monday here on X's and Bros. By the way, Tigers PR with a really good nugget yesterday. They have 4 players who have a 2.8 WAR, Fangraphs WAR. It's different than baseball reference WAR. F WAR means Fangraphs. Dylan Dingler, Kevin McGonigal, Riley Green, Casey Mize. The only team with more are the Dodgers with 6. So help me with this. Is that something to be proud of? Or is it something that creates a little concern and puzzled look on your face? Because the Dodgers with 6 are boasting a record of 65-38. They've got a plus 157 scoring differential. And they lead the NL West by a comfy 11 games over Arizona. Whereas Detroit is a team that's 49-54, a plus 29 in the run scoring differential, second to last in the division, and 4 games back of the final wild card. If you have that many F-WAR players, shouldn't you be better than where you are? How can, I'm not saying you should be equivalent to what the Dodgers are, but shouldn't you be better than the numbers would indicate? I would think so. Anyways, it was a good piece of information there and something that you and I can follow for a while here for the rest of the summer. Yesterday, an official post from a Brewers beat writer, a Milwaukee Brewers beat writer, Adam McCalvey, who said the Brewers officials have reportedly touched base with Detroit about Tarik Skubal. What would it take to get Tarik Skubal? Now, remember earlier I had said, are you really worried about a team like Tampa in the American League? Have they ever been, do they have a history of adding big names at the trade deadline? I mean, they did with CC Sabathia. Milwaukee's done that with CC Sabathia. Tampa, have they ever really done that? They don't have that reputation. Milwaukee, even though they've done it with CC Sabathia, hasn't necessarily gained that type of reputation either. They are a team that is trying to fight with the Dodgers to become the number 1 seed in the National League. It may not mean a whole lot because Milwaukee's had some really good regular seasons in the past. The Brewers are really underrated when it comes to things like that, I think. I mean, they had 97 wins last year. Does anybody out there know who had more? The answer to that is nobody. The Brewers were the number 1 seed, not just in the National League, but in the entire baseball world. Nobody had more than 97 wins than the Milwaukee Brewers. So they don't have a history of adding big names. And again, I mentioned CC Sabathia, but I mean, not a consistent history. What would it take to get Tarik Skubal? Do the Brewers possess anybody that the Tigers would want. We'll talk about that a little bit on the other side. There's plenty to get to here on a Friday edition of X's and Bros, brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
Do you have old retirement accounts still at former employers that could use some attention? Do you have accounts that the only time you hear from the advisor is when you call them? It might be time to take stock of your retirement and stop settling for less than you deserve. Having retirement accounts doesn't equal having a retirement plan. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Stop procrastinating and let's coordinate your retirement accounts and make sure you have a plan for success in retirement. At Mitch Lyons Wealth, we help people make sense of all the moving parts of retirement: taxes, income, risk, Social Security, healthcare, and legacy. It all works together, so let's make sure all parts of your plan are working together and not fighting themselves. Let's create a retirement of steel. Contact us today to schedule a brief chat to talk about your situation. If it makes sense, we can talk further. If you're good as is, we'll let you know that too. Go to MitchLyonsWealth.com or text PLAN to 844-867-8335. That's PLAN to 844-867-8335. Investment advisory services are offered by MLW Advisory Services, a state registered investment advisor.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at FreddieThePizzaMan.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit FreddieThePizzaMan.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI, thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
I think we have a chance to win a World Series. I've said that since spring training. That's never changed. That belief in this team has never changed, throughout the season. Obviously, we've put ourselves in a tough situation, but I think we've come out of that tough situation playing really good baseball. And yeah, I had going into spring training, the whole offseason, I'd never been more motivated to try and win a World Series, for this city, the team that drafted me in 2018 and helped develop me. And that's always been the goal, and that'll never change unless I'm told I'm on a different team.
Tarik Skubal before the game yesterday, good for him. I mean, he has been consistent with that. While many people laughed at him saying you don't have a chance, he saw something. That's great. I think he says sometimes, obviously he didn't say some of the right things to The Athletic, but he does say some things that he does it the right way because it gets people on your side. When he talks about the city, he talks about a team drafting him, taking a chance on him in the 9th round, all those things. Those pull at your heartstrings. And I give him credit for that. And I give him credit for believing in his teammates and what he can do and so on and so forth. My whole point to him would be, if you truly want to be here, show me you want to be here. I don't think that's that hard. I went over it yesterday. I'll go over it again today. You're supposed to be the boss of your agent. I'm not asking you to take a hometown discount. It's unfair to criticize him when we don't know what the offers are. And no one's going to make that public. However, the constant discussion or talking points to get fans on your side seems to be getting a little old, at least for most of us. And I think that's a fair point. You want to win a World Series? That's awesome. That's exactly what we want to hear. You guys are going about it. You and your teammates are going about it in a unique way, but a better way since June 1st. Because they have played, for the most part, pretty good ball. Stop talking about, the history of you and the organization when we think that history is going to end and you're the one who can tell us it's not. I've told you this for 3 years now. It's not a distraction. I mean, you don't win 14 of 19 by being distracted. I suppose you could argue Boston had plenty of distractions, then they reel off 15 straight wins. But it doesn't seem to be a distraction. But I told you it's going to be a never-ending saga for 2 years. And that's exactly what it's turned into. It's a never-ending saga. As I mentioned prior to the break, you've got a Milwaukee writer, Adam McGalvery, who's saying that the Brewers are going to be aggressive at the trade deadline. They're going to add, and that they have reportedly touched base with Detroit. What would that require? Well, Milwaukee has reportedly, at least before the trade deadline, the number one farm system in baseball. I know a lot of that depends on who you're talking to and what article you're reading. It also means that Brandon Sproat, who was a top 100 prospect, their 5th best prospect, who is also on the team right now, perhaps things change a little bit. He's the guy they got from the Mets. He's a 2nd-round pick out of the University of Florida for the New York Mets. When the Brewers traded Freddie Peralta to New York, among the others, they got Brandon Sproat and Tobias Myers back. And Sproat has been a starter for this Milwaukee team. Now, has he been good? No, he's got an ERA over 5. Is he winning games? No, his numbers are not super great for a young guy. Okay, he's 3-5. He's got a WHIP of 1.4. He is viewed still, because he doesn't have the service yet, 17 starts, as one of their prize prospects. The other prospects that they have are a shortstop, Jesus Made, an infielder, Luis Pena, who doesn't have a quote-unquote position, Jet Williams, who I had just mentioned, came over with Sproat in the trade with the Mets for Freddie Peralta. He is a middle infielder, / outfielder. Milwaukee's doing to him what the Tigers have done to so many. Play here, play there. Trey Cruz, you were a shortstop at TCU. We're going to play you third. We're going to play in the outfield, all these other things, right? They're doing the same thing with Jet Williams. He's the number 51 prospect coming into the season in all of minor league baseball, and he's their third best prospect overall. There's a Cooper Pratt who's a shortstop, and then there's Sproat. What makes that challenging? The Tigers need pitching. Milwaukee's going to give up Sproat. He's been, their number 2, number 3 guy. Their number 1 guy is Jake Mizorowski, of course. And then you've got some other guys who have been pretty damn good with them, right? Logan Henderson, although he's been hurt. He's been limited. Drohan, who's his first name escaped me. Shane. I think it's Shane Drohan. It would be a much more formidable pitching staff at the top. Not sure about the latter. Longer series might be a problem. It's not the same as the Dodgers, where the Tigers will get something that they desperately need. Okay. They could use a strong outfielder. They got Max Clark in the system. Anybody else that you're thinking about? It's a great question. Is it Jose De Paula, Zaire Hope, Eduardo Quintero, Mike Sirota? Those are all top 4 prospects within the Dodgers organization, are all our outfielders. They develop, I would say the Dodgers develop, they develop hitters and pitchers better than any other team in baseball. The Tigers need something like that. McGonagall's graduated. Clark will shortly. Rayner's got to work his way through. Briseño, Max Anderson, both infielders, right? Anybody else? Lorenzo, he's an infielder, catcher, first baseman. You're looking for, unless you want to wait for a guy like John Peck, you're looking for some arms. You don't necessarily have them. I mean, you could go back to Ty Madden if you want. You've seen him. Like I say, he's been better at the major league level than the minor league level. But you need arms to take the place. I mean, the people who feel like, well, you could trade Tarek Skubal. You don't need controllable arms coming back because you have Casey Mize, who's a free agent, I might add. You got Framber Valdez, who's going through the midst of some really bad times, including his worst outing of his career. Troy Melton, Cater Montero, Jackson Jobe coming back. We don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. Sure looks good in his rehab assignments, but we don't know what he's going to be back looking like against major league pitching. Reese Olson, which is the one that kills me more than anything else, because those same people preaching that are the same people who are pissed off about injured players acquired by the Tigers or any other organization in this town. And they act like, well, we'll just have 4 pitchers and everything will be fine. Have you watched baseball? Have you followed it at all and recognized that that's not the case? And they're out there preaching it and people are lapping it up. If Skubal goes to the Dodgers, think about this. You got Skubal, you got Yamamoto, you got Ohtani, you got Robleski, you got Sheehan. That doesn't even include Glasnow because of the injury. If he goes to the Phillies, it's Skubal, it's Sanchez, it's Wheeler, it's Nola, it's Luzardo. Find me a better 5 than that. The Braves are supposedly in on him. Skubal, Sale, Holmes, Elder, Perez. Pretty damn good. Pretty damn awesome and intimidating 5 pitchers in a series, don't you think? Feels that way for me anyway. Via text. Hey, Milwaukee, want to finally win a World Series? Tarek, Mize, Carpenter, Fermade, and a bullpen arm prospect. Wow, that's not nearly enough. You're giving up your 2 best pitchers and Well, I know Carpenter's struggling. He's got the heel issue. Power left-handed bat, let's put it that way. And you're only going to get a minor league shortstop and a bullpen arm prospect. You're going to get 2 prospects for all that. I want you to think about that for a minute. That would be ridiculous. You'd be run out of town. It doesn't matter. Scott Harris is scared. The Tigers are not getting to the playoffs and expect Outman to hit a home run in the playoffs facing Kansas City, pitching, making moves, Scott. Yeah, I mean, if Blanker get off the pot, right? That's what you want. Outman not hitting a home run. Look, I understand where you're coming from with there because, like I said, it's surprising to me. I was stunned that he got a 2-2 pitch like that. But I was even more surprised that he hit it over the fence. I get that you don't think the Tigers can do that with him. I would just remind you that there are some really unlikely, I'm not saying James Outman's in this category, but we think we knew all this, right? I mean, did you know that Miguel Rojas and Will Klein would be stars for the Dodgers last year? I didn't. What about when the Rangers in 2023, they had to replace Adolis Garcia, if you recall. Travis Jankowski became a hero, which made no sense. Brett Phillips in 2020 with the Rays. Do you remember that? When the Astros won, people are complaining about the cheating. Jose Urquidy was a big part of their series win. Steve Pearce in 2018 for the Red Sox. He was the World Series MVP. David Freese in 2011 for the Cardinals. Do you remember that? Of course you do. David Eckstein. When the Tigers lost in 2006 to the Cardinals, you and I were so pissed, and rightfully so. Game 4, David Eckstein was huge. He went 4 for 5. He had 3 big doubles. He was the MVP of the World Series. When the White Sox won in 2005, it wasn't Paul Konerko. It was Scott Podsednik who was the MVP. And then if you look at ALCSs, I mean, hell, you guys remember Pat Borders, the catcher for the Blue Jays, right? In the early 90s. He was the MVP. When Kirk Gibson hit that famous home run against Dennis Eckersley in 1988, one of the greatest calls of all time in any sport, in Vince Scully. Who was the MVP of the series? Do you know? I mean, Gibson is what you remember. Injured his legs in the NLCS against the Mets. Really couldn't play much. Do you know who was the MVP? It was Mickey Flippin' Hatcher. He hit 368, had 5 RBIs, and helping beat the Oakland A's. When I was a kid, 1970s, watched the Dodgers and the Yankees play all the time. And I think it was 78. It wasn't Chris Chambliss. It wasn't Reggie Jackson. It wasn't these big names. It wasn't Willie Randolph, because Willie Randolph got hurt. Brian Flippin' Doyle was a big hero for them. In the season, during the regular season, Brian Doyle hit 161. In the playoffs, he hit 438, or in the World Series, excuse me, hit 438. So I don't know all the answers to what you're suggesting here. I would tend to agree with you. I don't want to rely on James Outman in the playoffs. All right. So I tend to agree with you. We think we know when we don't, because most people just, they don't remember these for some reason or another. Jim Leyritz. You know, I mean, when San Diego played the Tigers in '84, who was San Diego's best player? Kurt Bavacqua? It wasn't Tony Gwynn. It wasn't Steve Garvey. It wasn't Craig Nettles. It wasn't Gary Templeton. It wasn't Terry Kennedy. It was Kurt Bavacqua. You know, and they didn't win it all, obviously. The Tigers did. But I'm just saying there are names that pop up quite a bit in sports. We don't know what's going to happen. To state it like it's a fact that they're not getting to the playoffs and expect Outman to hit a home run in the playoffs facing the Royals. Did you expect Marty Costilla homer against the Royals in '84? The LCS? I didn't. So I like I said, I would like to shore that position up. How's that with you? I think for the most part, you and I are on pace. Simpatico. On the same page. But I can give you example after example of guys who have stepped forward and done something you didn't expect. One more example. 1972, the Oakland A's won the World Series. The Oakland A's were a juggernaut back then. I know a lot of people are like, really? Oh, my gosh, yeah. Yeah, they had Joe Rudy. They had Bert Campaneris. They had Reggie Jackson. Okay? They had Gene Tennis. They had Sal Bando. They had really good players. Catfish Hunter, Vida Blue, Lamar Odom, Raleigh Fingers. They had some incredible players. Gene Tennis in 1972 hit 225. He had 13 extra base hits. Okay? In the ALCS, he was 1 for 17. Most people would go, he's out. World Series, he had 348. 4 homers and 9 runs batted in. He was the MVP. It wasn't Ken Holtzman. It wasn't Catfish Hunter. It was Gene Tennis. Who would have predicted that at the beginning of the World Series? Most people would have benched him going into the World Series. Okay? Who would have I don't think anybody would have expected something like that. And that's what sports does. Sports brings us unlikely heroes. Shep Tarek is slowly going down in this town like Sioux. Ooh, that's a very interesting comparison. I think, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, I think Lions fans loved Ndamukong Suh, but were almost embarrassed of Ndamukong Suh because of some of the antics that he did. We embraced it with Dennis Rodman, I guess, but with Ndamukong Suh, there's a problem. Like, oh man, he's because he's a great player and didn't have to do the things he did to gain recognition. That could be part of it. But I don't think Tarek Scuba is going down that route. People are just liking him for a different reason. It's interesting though, because both players are or were great. I'd take Ndamukong Suh on my team any single day of the week. That dude showed up for practice every day and played every day and played hard every day. He's crossed a line too often. There's a lot of great players in sports who have crossed a line. But that's an interesting comparison. I'll have to think about a little bit more about that. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline is 866-838-4843. You can text the program Sports Radio 21,000. Lions top 5 players have created some debate. We'll get your thoughts on that when we come back. We're brought to you on a Friday morning by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community, just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Summer is made for road trips and lake dips. Shop at Meyer with M-Perks and fuel your summer with savings up to $1 per gallon on your next tank of gas. For nearly every dollar you spend on items like travel snacks, groceries, sunscreen, and more, you'll earn M-Perks points. The more you shop, the more your points add up, and the more you save at the pump. Turn your summertime snack cravings into fuel savings, only at Meyer. Savings per gallon based on points redeemed. Fuel rewards not valid in Wisconsin. Max 30 gallons. See mperks.com for details.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
Second hour of the program. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9, streaming live on Facebook, X, and on YouTube. We're brought to you this hour by Meijer. Just 5 games on the Major League Baseball schedule last night, including the Tigers' 4-3 win over the Royals. James Outman with a 3-run blast in the 7th. Dylan Dingler with a game-winning RBI single in the 8th. Spencer Torkelson went 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. Might be one of the more puzzling players we've dealt with in a long, long, long time. Here's the reason I say that. There are just 6 players in Tigers history to have 500 hits and 100 homers by age 26. 500 hits, 100 homers by age 26. One more homer, and he reaches the 100 homer mark. Okay. Here are the other players: Al Kaline, Willie Horton, Rudy York, Lance Parrish, Travis Fryman. How crazy is that? With all due respect, it's a very strange group to be part of. I don't know what to make of it, in all honesty. Those are legendary names right there. By the way, last night, what was the key part of the game, do you think? The Outman homer shop, of course. I got to be honest with you. I think the bottom of the first was the biggest part of the game. In case people didn't see everything, here's what happened. Troy Melton's on the bump. 6 pitches in, he walks Carter Jensen, who's a catcher. Well, how many catchers lead off? Not many. Craig Biggio back in the day? Maybe more as a second baseman than a catcher. I'd have to look that up. I can't think of many catchers who are leadoff players. Anyway, so Jensen leads off with a walk. Lane Thomas pops out. Vinny Pasquantino singles to left. Jensen goes all the way to third. Or no, he goes to second. I'm sorry. So it's first and second, 1 out. Then Salvador Perez walks. So the bases are juiced. Mike Massey is up. Swings and misses on a splitter. It gets away from Dingler. All right. So you've got 2 outs there, but the bases are loaded. Jensen, Carter Jensen, who had walked to start the game, runs home. Dingler scrambles for the baseball, tosses it to Melton covering home plate. Now remember, Massey is out swinging even though Dingler didn't control the baseball because first base is occupied. So Dingler scrambles to his right, gets the ball, tosses to home. Melton touches home plate for the force out and the double play, if you will. Strikeout, throw him out. It's a strikeout, throw him out situation. I give a lot of credit to Troy Melton. He realized he didn't have to worry about trying to tag Jensen. He just had the force out at home. That's thinking baseball, man. That's a really good, I mean, that's a jam early on. Should be out of it. Like Jensen stays at third. There's obviously no big deal. The bases remain loaded. The bases would remain loaded, and you would have Rojas up, who I think doubled to lead off the next inning. Not that he would have in that situation. You never know what Melton's going to throw to him, but you understand the point. That's a heads-up play by Troy Melton. You talk about a player who's in the game and thinking about all the things that he could do to help his team get out of this. when you were little, how many coaches, maybe it was your dad, maybe it was your mom, I don't know, how many of them told you, what are you going to do with the ball if it comes to you? They want you to think the game. Sports is so much more thinking than you ever realize. It really is. Football, I say this all the time. You've got coaches on the sideline. They're not worried about the next play. They're worried about 3 plays ahead. And they're thinking of what they were going to do to get in certain situations. You play golf a lot. We talk to a lot of golfers, right? We got a Tullymore Tuesday and a Tullymore Thursday. You're playing golf. You know what you're doing? Sometimes you're playing to yardage, aren't you? Brett Hayes is a big golfer. He's been our producer all week long. Done a nice job. Do you hit to yardage? Or do you automatically, after a nice solid drive on a par 5, grab your 3-wood?
I grab my 3-wood.
You grab your 3-wood? All right. Well, maybe you'll score better when you start hitting the yardage.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're dialed in from 100 yards out, if you're really good with your lob wedge from 100 yards out, why in the world would you not hit to 100 yards? Short par 4, 340 yards. Do you always hit driver? Hit a 3-wood, 2 1/4, and you're close to 100 yards out, and you feel you could use an iron, a small iron like that, a short iron like that, where you can control it a little bit better. You're thinking the game. I'm not saying everybody should do that. I'm just saying you're thinking that, right? Instead of using a 3-wood, what if you used a hybrid and you got to 125 if that's your distance? I hit my pitching wedge 125. I feel better with my pitching wedge at 125 than I would my gap wedge at 100. So hit it to 125. Not everything has to be, I muscle up, I bow up, and I'm going to get this done as far as I can possibly do it. Troy Melton was thinking the game last night. If the ball comes back to me, where am I going? I'm going to Dingler and then to first for a double play. If it gets away from Dingler, I need to make sure I'm covering home plate. And that's exactly what he did, and all I had to do was touch it. Pretty cool. Thinking the game out loud. Pretty awesome. Love what Melton did there. Mitch Lyons-Wealth poll question. The Pistons roster, is it better this year than it was a year ago? Simple yes or no response. The final results come your way in the 8 o'clock hour on Monday. The Lions, the pride of Detroit, came out with ranking all the Lions players. And it's interesting considering from which this team came under Brad Holmes. I think it's very revealing. Like in 2021, you would say the best player for the Lions, maybe at the time, was Frank Ragnow. We'll talk about some of the other ones, and maybe I know some people are not fans of Brad Holmes, but what he's done and the quality of players that he's brought in hasn't been enough yet, but the quality of players he's brought in compared to what he inherited. We'll talk of that when we return on X's and Bros on a Friday morning, brought to you by Meijer.
Summer is made for road trips and lake dips. Shop at Meijer with M-Perks and fuel your summer with savings up to $1 per gallon on your next tank of gas. For nearly every dollar you spend on items like travel snacks, groceries, sunscreen, and more, you'll earn M-Perks points. The more you shop, the more your points add up, and the more you save at the pump. Turn your summertime snack cravings into fuel savings, only at Meijer. Savings per gallon based on points redeemed. Fuel rewards not valid in Wisconsin. Max 30 gallons. See mperks.com for details.
Huge here for the incredible Crystal Mountain Resort in Thompsonville, Michigan. If you've never experienced the mountain, it's unbelievable. They offer up 36 holes of championship golf, Betsy Valley, Mountain Ridge, accommodations, a ton of choices. Go to crystalmountain.com, see everything for yourself. One of the top spas in America. They can handle businesses, small groups, big groups, your buddies, the ladies, and more. Book your getaway now at crystalmountain.com. That's crystalmountain.com. Huge here for all the ABC Warehouse locations in Michigan. Now, if you're looking for the best prices on TVs, furniture, appliances, mattresses, and more, you need to go to abcwarehouse.com. You can shop there and also shop in person at all ABC Warehouse locations across Michigan. For the one close to you, go to abcwarehouse.com. Best deals on TVs, appliances, furniture, and mattresses at all ABC Warehouse locations in Michigan.
Hi, it's Matt Shepard, host of X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, the Tigers and I want to send you to a Tigers home game every Wednesday. We're offering you Tiger Tuesdays, where you watch the Tiger game on Tuesdays on Detroit Sportsnet. They'll give you a keyword to text to 21,000. You listen to my show Wednesday morning, and at 7:50, we'll pick a winner and give you 4 tickets to a Tigers game and $100 in free play at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Must be 21 or over to win.
Shop the Meijer 7 for 7 sale and make your next shopping trip a good deal better. Through August 4th, pay just $1 each when you mix or match any 7 or more items. Summer fresh favorites like seedless mini cucumbers, red, yellow, or orange bell peppers, and select varieties of Oikos Light and Fit or Chobani yogurt, Kraft mac and cheese, Powerade, or sparkling iced beverages. Getting more for your money with the Meijer 7 for 7 sale through August 4th. That's good life quality and real low prices. Only at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See the Meijer app for details.
Yeah, he's the best. He really is. And you know, I think he's the best wide receiver in the league. I think he's the only guy who catches with it, runs with it, blocks, does everything. He can do it all, and it's a lot of fun to work with him and to play with him. And the way he works in practice, he makes me want to get him the ball. He makes me want to reward him for all his hard work, and you know, it makes everyone around him work harder. And he's just such a great teammate, great player, great person, and I love playing with him.
That's Jared Goff on a podcast earlier in the week talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Welcome back, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it, and giving us a little bit of your Friday morning. I'm Matt Shepard. Brett Hayes is our producer. He'll produce the huge show later on today as well. Before we dive into the Lions stuff, and that's a really good soundbite from Jared Goff, what's been more nauseating for you? The Travis Kelce wedding to Taylor Swift, or the LeBron James soap opera of deciding on where he's going to play next year or this coming season? It's nauseating, isn't it?
LeBron all the way.
Really?
I think so.
Wow. I know he's a drama king, but I think it's the Swift Kelce wedding. I mean, they're still talking about it. I mean, it put a huge sign outside Madison Square Garden, just married, put other signs up in New York City, walling things off so no one can get in. You got to show ID to get in, and then she supports. I mean, she's such a, it's, I don't suppose there's a wrong answer there. It just drives me absolutely crazy. I saw something on social media from Jim Bowden and The Athletic, and he's on Sirius XM MLB Network or MLB Radio. He said if the Tigers are to trade Tarek Skubal, he hopes that the Brewers or the Rays get him. He actually put the Rays, and what they would need would be Skubal or Reed Detmers from the Angels. He said it would make them a legitimate World Series contender. You immediately wonder, what do the Rays have that you could desire? Because their top 4 players in their farm system are all position players, including their top player is a catcher, Theo Gillen. Their best pitcher is Brady Hopkins. So everyone talks about how deep their farm system is. I'll take them for their word because I don't know the answer to that. Just because they say it's deep doesn't mean it's deep. There was a point in Randy Smith's tenure as general manager of the Tigers that they were the number 1 farm system in Major League Baseball, and yet what did it produce? So sometimes I take these things with a grain of salt. All right, let me shift to Lions. Read this article yesterday by a former guest of ours, Jeremy Reisman. I think he joined us earlier in the week. Maybe it was last week. Either way, he ranked the top 5 players for the Lions. Number 1 he has is Penei Sewell. That's not surprising. Okay. He should be. Number 2 is Amon-Ra St. Brown. And what they've done in Pride of Detroit is similar to what ESPN has done. They poll their people, highest ranking, lowest ranking, what they were a year ago. All right. Highest was 2 for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Lowest was 5. 3 is Jahmyr Gibbs. 4 is Aiden Hutchinson. You're splitting hairs with all these guys. And the reason those 4 are answers is because they are top 5 at their position. Penei Sewell is arguably the best tackle in football. Amon-Ra St. Brown's a top 5 wide receiver. Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 3 running back. Aiden Hutchinson is, would you say he's a top 5 edge rusher? And then they have number 5, Jack Campbell, because he's a top 5 linebacker. Who are they missing? Should Jared Goff be in there? Should Sam Laporta be in there? Sam Laporta's, at least by Pro Football Focus and the ESPN tight ends, he's top 5. You could make that case. That's a really good problem to have, isn't it? I used this example earlier in the show. I said, if the Dodgers have 6 players who have a 2.8 F WAR, Fangraphs WAR, 6 players, 2.8, more than anybody else, the Tigers have 4 of them. Shouldn't the Tigers be better? If the Lions, if we're arguing or debating the number of strong players of their position, Brian Branch healthy, top 5 safety, right? Jared Goff, top 10 quarterback. Sam Laporta, as I mentioned. Who knows what's going to happen with, Tate Ratledge or Blake Miller eventually. Hopefully they become that. Aleem McNeil, when healthy, is probably a top 10, top 12 defensive tackle. When healthy. Those are really good problems to have. If we're debating that on who the top 5 players are on this team, that means you've got a lot from which to choose. And if that's the case, shouldn't this team be a hell of a lot better? Hell yeah, it should be. Absolutely. I don't think I can disagree with this list, but I would tell you in 2021, you could not have had much debate about it because there weren't that many guys to choose from. In 2021, Dan Campbell's first year when Brad Holmes took over, Jared Goff was a quarterback. Jamal Williams was a running back. Khalif Raymond, Amon-Ra St. Brown were the wide receivers. Darren Fells and T.J. Hawkinson were the tight ends. You had Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Evan Brown as offensive linemen. Halavaitai was actually the right guard. And you had Penei Sewell as a rookie, right? I believe. On defense, you had Michael Brockers, Aleem McNeil, Nick Williams, Trey Flowers, Jalen Reeves-Maben, Jerry Jacobs, Tracy Walker, Will Harris, Alex Anzalone. Think of how different, how much better the Lions are than they were back then. Who would be your top 5? If you're only going top 5, who would be your top 5 back then? Frank Ragnow would be number 1. T.J. Hawkinson probably number 2. Taylor Decker number 3. Maybe DeAndre Swift, because he was there too. Maybe Jared Goff. Although they were 3-13, you would probably hold that against him. Threw for 3,200 yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 picks. 8 picks, not 18. 8 picks. Not a great year. So probably not. He probably wouldn't be a top 5 player. Maybe it was DeAndre Swift. Although DeAndre Swift shared time, as I mentioned, with Jamal Williams. So you would be hard-pressed to find a top 5 team or top 5 players on that team. I mean, would it be Michael Brockers? Think of how deep. I mean, a guy who had 1 sack? Hell no, it wouldn't be. That's a difficult thing to try and determine on a team with a lot of weak, and I mean weak talent. The CBSSports.com undertook a very challenging task. There has, since 2020, there have been 191 first-round NFL draft picks. Since 2020, 191. And obviously, the Lions have plenty in there. I have a big problem with where they rank some of the Detroit Lions in this. To me, especially their best first-round pick, doesn't make a lot of sense on where they have rated him. And I wonder why that is. We'll get to that when we come back on X's and Bros. Glad you're with us. You've made it to the end of the week. This is a Friday morning, and we're brought to you by our friends at Meijer.
Huge here for my good friend Josh Garvey and the team at Dorn Mayhew, West Michigan, one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms. Their worldwide headquarters are in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. And Josh and his team connect with all the sports fans and businesses across Michigan. They bring you John Beeline on the Huge Show. They bring you Lomas Brown, during the Lion season. They are a top shelf team when it comes to growth and understanding what their clients need. And mix in when we do the Beat Huge contests or the NCAA March Madness brackets. Thank you, Josh Garvey, for what you do for the Huge Show and the Michigan Sports Network. Simple and easy. Just find Doran Mayhew on all the social networks or just Google Doran Mayhew and find out how they can help your business. And again, a special thanks to Josh Garvey and the Doran Mayhew team in West Michigan.
Get ready for the hottest Saturdays of the summer at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Now through August, we're dropping over $1 million in free play. Every hour from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., 10 winners score $600 in free play. $1 Million Summer is back, so don't miss your shot at big summer wins. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at FreddieThePizzaMan.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit FreddieThePizzaMan.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI, thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
5 after the hour. Back with you on a Friday morning. Hope you got a lot of good plans set for the weekend. Hope you're excited. I hope you get good weather. And if you're like me, I hope you hit it straight. All right. My wife and daughter are going to a concert this weekend. Morgan Wallen. Guess who's the DD? Because I'm not going. I'm going to go smack that white ball around a little bit while I drop them off. And then wait for a while. Grab a bite to eat. Watch a game or two. And then wait for the phone call. That means an early or a late Saturday night or an early Sunday morning is what it usually means. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. The Meijer hotline, 866-838-4843. You can always text our program, Sports Radio 21,000, and we always welcome your thoughts in the chat on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook. CBS Sports ranked the best. Well, they broke it down into 3 different categories of first-round picks since 2020. There have been 191 of them, okay? They have a bottom third, which is the most disappointing first-round decisions. They have a middle third, solid picks, mixed returns, incomplete grades. And, of course, they have the best first-round decisions. So you look at the Lions, and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players. Penei Sewell is their highest rated. Now, they take a lot of different things into decision here, into this decision. Some of it has to do with where they were chosen, which makes sense, okay? Like they use example Kyle Pitts. Good player, but the decision to draft him number 4 overall was not necessarily a good one, considering the players on the board were Jamar Chase, Jaden Waddle, Penei Sewell, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, and Devontae Smith. So it's not that Kyle Pitts hasn't been a good player. It's where they selected him. The number 1 first-round pick they rank as Joe Burrow. He went number 1 in 2020. And I got a text from a listener who said, I wonder if the Bengals don't have a big year this year, if Joe Burrow might be traded. Sort of a move for the future. A Stafford deal, maybe to the Vikings or the Texans. I could see that. Sure. Joe Burrow in the right system with a better team around him. He's getting up there, which is hard for us to believe because of what he did at LSU. It seems like just yesterday. And it doesn't feel like he's been around that long, does it? But that clock ticks pretty quick. Joe Burrow's number 1. They got Drake May number 2. Justin Jefferson number 3. I probably would have put Justin Jefferson number 1, considering he was selected 22nd in the draft. Jackson Smith and Jigba, number 4, and then Jordan Love, number 5. There you go. I mean, what did I say yesterday? Oh, my God. The passion and the love for him. Now, he was drafted 26th overall. He's a starting quarterback, so maybe there's something to be said for that. The highest-rated Lion is Penei Sewell at number 14 because he was drafted 7th. Fine. Here's my issue. Just ahead of him is Christian Darrisaw, who's a good tackle and was drafted 23rd in 2021. What needs to be taken into account is who else was taken in that draft. And if you think it's more important because of that gap there, how do you make up for the gap between Jefferson and Drake May, who was drafted 3rd overall? Jefferson at 22 is a better bargain than May at 3rd. I know what you're saying. Well, franchise quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, franchise quarterback, 2nd overall pick in 2024. Beat the Lions at Ford Field. Other than that, injured. I mean, where is the massive value and passion for that? So anyway, so they got Sewell at 14, but Darrisaw ahead of him is a better value, which is confusing to me. They got Aiden Hutchinson at 26 because he was number 2 overall in 2022. Yet they have C.J. Stroud above him, who was drafted 2nd overall in 2023. That to me makes no sense whatsoever, considering there have been rumors that perhaps Houston would be willing to part ways with C.J. Stroud. And that C.J. Stroud has not been very good the last 2 years. Number 60 is Jahmyr Gibbs. And that's it for the Lions in the upper tier draft picks. Okay? Gibbs at 60. But they've got Jalen Phillips at 55? That's crazy. Gibbs is much better value. Phillips was taken 18th in 2021. Gibbs was taken 12th in 2023. That makes absolutely no sense. Just because you thought it was a bad pick at the time, and it turns out to be a really good pick, doesn't mean that you're right in this regard. He's turned out to be so much better than anybody ever thought they would. The second tier, which is a little strange, considering Chris Olave's in that second tier, Colston Loveland, although it's only 1 year, Nate Wiggins, cornerback of the Baltimore Ravens, is in the second tier. Seems a little strange. I think they're pretty damn good players. Jack Campbell is there too at 75. And they've got Jack Campbell at 75 for Worth, does CBS Sports, number 18 overall in 2023. Anton Harrison, they have ahead of him, a tackle who plays for Jacksonville. This is what it puzzles me a little bit. Jalen Phillips was taken number 18 overall 2 years prior to Jack Campbell being taken at the same spot in the draft. Who's had a better career so far? I mean, Campbell the last 2 years have been really good. And last year was first team All-Pro. Jalen Phillips hadn't been that. Anyway, Campbell at 75. Jamison Williams at number 82. Answer me this, and just ahead of him, maybe we get way too close to it, but back-to-back years of 1,000 yards, all right? Who's better? Jamison Williams, where he was drafted, and a lot of people questioned that too, if you recall. But Jamison Williams was drafted number 12 in 2022. Xavier Worthy, 2 years later, taken 28. Who's better value there? Xavier Worthy has 7 touchdowns overall in his career, okay? He's never had more than 640 yards in a single season. Some of it has to do with, remember, he is playing with one of the best quarterbacks of all time. That's what we're told. Jamison Williams is playing with, everybody disses, for some reason or another, everyone disses Jared Goff. And it's just not, you're not following it close enough. And this is another reason you could prove that. But never more than 640. 7 touchdowns overall. Jamison Williams has got 7 touchdowns each of the last 2 years. Over 1,000 yards easily over the last 2 years. Well, 2 years ago it was 1,001. But last year, easily over 1,000 yards. More productive. Longer resume, yes, but still much more productive. So you got J-Mo at 82. Tyleik Williams, and that's it for the middle tier for the Lions. Bottom third, Tyleik Williams, Terrion Arnold, and Jeff Okudah. Williams is at 146. Ironically enough, right behind him at 148 is Peyton Turner, who's now a Lion, because he was a first-round pick by the New Orleans Saints. Terrion Arnold at 156 out of 191. And Jeff Okudah, 189 out of 191, according to CBS Sports, of the first-round picks taken since 2020. I gave you the top two in Joe Burrow. Okay. Joe Burrow, number one, quarterback, Cincinnati Bengals. Number two, Drake May. Who do you think are the last two? The first two are quarterbacks. Who are the last two? The last two are quarterbacks, according to CBS Sports. Number 190 is Zach Wilson, who was taken by the Jets. And 191 is Trey Lance. So you start it with two quarterbacks. You end it with two quarterbacks. Plenty in between. Three players seen is in the upper echelon of the first-round picks. Two players for the Lions in the middle. And then three players for the Lions on the downside. Two of those players, I think one's a little early with Tyreek Williams, but they got to take all the first round picks. It's a big exercise. Give him credit. Tyreek Williams need to have a big year alongside Aleem McNeil. That'll go a long way in determining how good this defense is going to be. So I think it's a little early to say he's been, a bad pick. Terrion Arnold, is fair to say, absolutely he was, and Jeff Okudah without question. Especially since Jeff Okudah. Now, I remind you, those two players, when drafted, you and I were both. I don't believe in need. I don't believe in drafting for need. And at 24, you're Terrion Arnold drafting 24th. Getting what was arguably now, the best corner, Quinyon Mitchell, probably better. And I know people have said before, oh, why didn't you take Cooper DeJean? I hear what you're saying there. Terrion Arnold came from Alabama and came from the SEC, facing some of the best receivers, some of the best teams, and had the tape and the numbers to back it up. Hasn't worked out. It's a swing and a miss every once in a while. Jeff Okudah, who has turned out to be a brutal choice for the Lions. Taken third overall in 2020. You couldn't find a bad scouting report about him. I'm not making excuses for Bob Quinn at all, because I'm glad he's gone. I couldn't stand him while he was here. However, you could understand why most people would be, yes, taking a guy like that. Maybe you thought it was too high. Maybe in 2020, you thought it was just too high. It could be. Obviously it turns out that way. Were you saying that at the time, or were you saying, thank goodness we got a cornerback? Thank goodness we got our need. I don't like drafting for need. That's what drives me absolutely crazy. When you do that, you're just asking for trouble. You take the best player available. If he was their best player available, if he had them as their best player available, then you got a problem with your scouting department. That was the year, just so you know, Joe Burrow was taken number one, Chase Young number two. And you passed on, Justin Herbert. And if Tristan Wirfs, who's in this list as a first-round pick, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Love. Those are just some of the names that you could have had. Every team can do that, you guys. Every NFL squad can say, we could have had this guy. I mean, Cincinnati got T. Higgins in the first pick in the second round. Would you rather have T. Higgins or Jalen Reagor? And Philadelphia is viewed as a brilliant brain trust. Why aren't we more like Howie Roseman and Philadelphia shop? I don't know. Here's what I know. Cincinnati in that draft got a franchise quarterback and a really good, I don't want to say franchise wide receiver, but they got the best number 2 wide receiver in football. Via text. Shep, yes. Goff, 2 1s and a third for Burrow. Well, I think he's top 5 at his position. I'm not sure about the 2 1s in the third. I don't know where you get that. That's an awful lot. Okay, that's an awful lot. I'm trying to think. Is that what it was for Stafford? Brett, do you remember when Matthew Stafford was traded? Detroit got Jared Goff, obviously, and they were able to spin those draft picks into really building the future for their team. So 2 first-round picks and a third pick. So he's using the same formula that the Rams got that the Rams gave the Lions, that the Lions would give to Cincinnati. Let me ask you this, though. This is an interesting point, and I'm just observing here. Do you think what's holding this team back from winning a Super Bowl is the quarterback play? See, here's would be my fear. Let's say you did that. Not that you're going to, because that's pretty steep, I think. Joe Burrow's going to be 30 this year. Is that right? I think so. December. He'll be 30 in December, so he'll get most of the year done. And yes, the Rams traded for a Matthew Stafford who's a little bit older. I think the fear some people may have is that Joe Burrow's injury history. 3 times in his career, 3 out of the 6 years, he's been injured. He was injured his rookie year. He was injured in 2023 when he was 27 years old, played 10 games, and last year he was injured. How do you feel about that? How concerned should you be about that? He's productive. He's a hell of a player. No question. 34 touchdowns, 35 touchdowns. A couple of years ago, he led the league in touchdowns and yards and first downs and yards per game. It helps to have really good wide receivers. Detroit's got good wide receivers. He would come in. He would be a perfect fit, I think, for this Lions offense. Is that what's holding this team back, do you think? How does that fix your defense? I think you can get to a Super Bowl. I think you can win it with Jared Goff. I truly do. Mm-hmm. He needs help just like every quarterback needs help. When Matthew Stafford was here, everybody said, why do we think that Matthew Stafford needs so much help? Where's all the help for these other guys? Have we said that about Joe Burrow? Does he need help? He's a hell of a player. Does he need help? Yeah, he needs help on the defensive side, especially since they got rid of Trey Hendrickson. You think Lamar Jackson has needed help? You think Josh Allen has needed help? Sure seems like it, doesn't it? Jalen Hurts goes to 2 Super Bowls, wins 1, was the MVP in 1, and deservedly so. He has a lot of help in Philly. Matthew Stafford's got a lot of help in the Rams. Jared Goff needs some defensive help. I don't think he's what's holding them back. Phone number on the Meijer hotline, 866-838-4843, but I understand why you would come to that conclusion and want to trade like that. We're back after this, brought to you by Meijer.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Do you have old retirement accounts still at former employers that could use some attention? Do you have accounts that the only time you hear from the advisor is when you call them? It might be time to take stock of your retirement and stop settling for less than you deserve. Having retirement accounts doesn't equal having a retirement plan. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, Stop procrastinating and let's coordinate your retirement accounts and make sure you have a plan for success in retirement. At Mitch Lyons Wealth, we help people make sense of all the moving parts of retirement: taxes, income, risk, Social Security, healthcare, and legacy. It all works together, so let's make sure all parts of your plan are working together and not fighting themselves. Let's create a retirement of steel. Contact us today to schedule a brief chat to talk about your situation. If it makes sense, we can talk further. If you're good as is, we'll let you know that too. Go to MitchLyonsWealth.com or text PLAN to 844-867-8335. That's PLAN to 844-867-8335. Investment advisory services are offered by MLW Advisory Services, a state registered investment advisor.
The big shows are at Soaring Eagle. Eric Church. All you gotta do is put a drink in my hand. Friday, August 14th with special guest Ashley McBride. The Free the Machine Tour, part of the Soaring Eagle Summer Outdoor Concert Series. Tickets start at $87 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com.
Drink a little drink, smoke a little smoke.
The party starts with Eric Church plus Ashley McBride, August 14th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Make ways for a great cause at Stand Up for the Cure Lakeshore paddleboarding event at Ross Park in Norton Shores on Saturday, July 25th. You can grab your paddle board and your sunscreen to raise critical funds for breast cancer research and awareness programs. Register for Stand Up for the Cure at suftc.org.
By the way, did you see the Baltimore Ravens waived Diego Pavia? Yeah, the former loudmouth quarterback at Vanderbilt who thought he should have won the Heisman, said all those stupid things, couldn't take a high road, just good. Oh, my God. Painful, absolutely painful. Welcome back, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. Thanks for being with us. Tell a friend. You can always text us, Sports Radio 21,000. You can also join us in the chat if you so choose as we stream live throughout the state of Michigan. We were talking about the Lions draft picks, and I noticed this too on social media that, as I had mentioned earlier, Jim Bowden of The Athletic was expecting certain trade partners as the MLB trade deadline approaches. 9 days left. August 3rd is when it hits. I'll reiterate, you have 2 full months after that. So acting like, oh my God, we didn't trade him, now we're done. You've got 2 months. If you're playing good enough ball, maybe you don't have to. You've got to add who you're going to add. Jim Bowden says the Tigers should add Luis Robert from the Mets. Won a Gold Glove in 2020. Remember, that was a shortened season, 56 games played. He was number 2 in Rookie of the Year that year. Probably a better gauge is 23 when he won a Silver Slugger, hit 38 home runs. The problem is, I mean, Jim Bowden likes to think that, the right-handed punch, that's what it is. It's a club option on his deal, so you don't have to keep him. He's 28 years old. All those things he feels is a positive. Here's the negative. The last 3 years, he's played 108 games, 100 games, and so far this year, 27 games. In other words, he is not a reliable player. This year, he's hitting 211. He's got an OBP of 306. Here's the other negative. A couple of years ago, struck out 141 times. In addition to that, there's a reason Chicago let him go. And it's because the work ethic is not there. Self-entitled, you could call it. You could call it unmotivated because his team wasn't very good. I don't know. But it's interesting, isn't it? Chicago cleaned house with a number of guys. And now this year, they've got players who want to play. And they're in first place in the division sooner than anybody would have expected. I don't know if they're going to stay there. If I was a betting man, I would say they won't. Don't think they're the best team in the division. But you know what? They're good enough to be there through this. This is a pretty big sample size, don't you think? We like to use sample sizes only when it benefits us. But one of them is June 1st. Forget about what happened before. I brought this up yesterday. Oh, how you lead. Look at how great he is. He is good. He's a good player. May he hit 250. First 3 months, he's hitting 195. May he hit 250. We've forgotten that, and we're only dwelling on the positive. And maybe that's because you're a positive person, which would be awesome. And I would love that about you. Maybe I'm too negative when it comes to this. I'm just trying to balance it, man. Like, don't get too high, too low. Luis Robert has had some good. He's had some bad. Work ethic is not there. At least it wasn't in Chicago, from what people used to tell me there. Has it changed since he's gone to the Mets? It's only been 1 year. He's played 27 games. I don't see it. I don't know what it would take to get him. I just know I would rather have other right-handed bats than Luis Robert. So that's a bit, for me, that's a bit of a, that's a sticking point for me. What is not sticky at all is what's going on with Dylan Dingler. Continues to excel. Last night, Dylan Dingler comes through in the clutch, 2 more hits and a walk, on base 3 times in 4 plate appearances. Dylan Dingler, over the last 4 days, has been on base 11 times. I don't care if it's a hit. I don't care if it's a walk. I don't care if he gets hit by a pitch. He's been on base 11 times. He has 9 hits. He has scored 5 runs. He has hit 3 bombs, 2 doubles, and 2 game-winning RBIs. The last, this is according to OptaStats, the last Major League Baseball catcher to reach all of those marks in a span of 4 days was Carlton Fisk in 1977. Think of the great catchers who have played since then. None of them did what Carlton Fisk did until Dylan Dingler. Now, that's a small sample size. I'm not going to try and tell you Dylan Dingler is going to be a Hall of Fame player like Carlton Fisk is. I'm not going to claim that he's going to be an 11-time All-Star or a 3-time Silver Slugger. But you know what he has done that Carlton Fisk did? He won a Gold Glove. Carlton Fisk was considered one of the better catchers of his generation. He won only 1 Gold Glove, which could go back to, my argument for Bill Freehan. Not that it's fair, because there's definitely some homerism there, all right? But I think Bill Freehan, when you look at Carlton Fisk winning 1 Gold Glove, Bill Freehan won 5. And he was an 11-time All-Star. The difference, Carlton Fisk, I think, hit like 325 home runs. Bill Freehan hit 200. And that's a position where the expectations are high when it comes to that stuff. It is interesting. We don't give Bill Freehan credit because he played for the Tigers from 1961 through 1976. Okay? During that time, what did he do? Among other things, he caught a 31-game winner in Denny McClain in 1968. Okay? He also caught a guy who won 25 games, led the league in starts, led the league in complete games, led the league in innings, led the league in hits allowed in Mickey Lolich. He helped shape 2 of the better pitchers in a decade, during their decade of play. Denny McClain won back-to-back Cy Youngs. So when you do that, do they not give – wasn't everybody aglow when Tarek Skubal gave Dylan Dingler a Rolex watch? Yes. Well, when Denny McClain in 1968 won 31 games and was the MVP and the Cy Young Award winner, and then the following year led the league in WAR, led the league in wins, led the league in games started, 41, led the league in batters faced and innings pitched, and won the Cy Young, was 6th in the MVP. Should we not give a little bit of that to Bill Freehan, who caught the majority of those games? I think so. I mean, if you want to be fair, if you want to be, balanced and honest about it, that's the way it should be. But Dingler's numbers over the last 4 days, very, very impressive. And he continues to impress, especially after what he did last night. Pretty interesting article not too long ago about some of the worst contracts in the National Hockey League. And though there is no Detroit Red Wing on it, there is one name that was linked to the Red Wings that is associated with it. We will get to that when we come back a little bit later on. It's our Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question. After a 60-win campaign this past season, the Pistons kind of surprisingly low on some national sports writers' thoughts on the NBA and what Detroit has been able to accumulate so far. How is it addressed or left vacant what you think they needed to address in order for them to be a better basketball team this coming season than they were last year? Again, the Meijer hotline, 866-838-4843. The text line is Sports Radio 21,000. You can follow us on our social media channels at XB Mornings. And, of course, we've got the chat open for you as we stream live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
In the den,
with Dan Dickerson.
It's a new day to celebrate and be free. And it's a new day full of action and excitement because it's a day for winning. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, your getaway reimagined.
Tarek Skubal starts for the Tigers tonight, and some are already framing it as maybe the last chance for fans to say goodbye before he's traded away. Don't believe it. The Tigers continue to play good baseball, 27-16 in their last 43. If they keep it up for another week, Scott Harris won't be trading Tarek Skubal or anyone else of value at the deadline. I'm confused by the people who say, but that's dumb, because if you keep him and let him go at the end of the season, you won't get anything for him. Except if you keep him and add a piece or two, you really could make the postseason and with no superstar team in the American League, make a real run for the World Series. Keeping Tarek Skubal gives you a much better chance of doing that. So enjoy Tarek Skubal's start tonight and know there will be a lot more coming in the months ahead wearing the Old English D.
We go together. The Jonas Brothers. I'm a sucker for you. The greetings from your hometown encore. The Soaring Eagle Outdoor Concert Series. Special guests, boys like girls. Tickets for the Jonas Brothers start at $67 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com. Hang out with the Jonas Brothers and Boys Like Girls August 5th at Soaring Eagle Casino. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Huge here for the Purple community of Van Andel Institute. They're honored to be a part of the Make Ways for a Great Cause at the Stand Up for the Cure Lakeshore paddleboarding event at Ross Park in Norton Shores on Saturday, July 25th. Grab your paddleboard and your sunscreen to raise awareness and critical funds for community health programs at Hackley Community Care and Breast Cancer Research at Van Andel Institute. Paddleboarders of all experience levels are welcome. The vibrant event will also include yoga, music, family-friendly entertainment, and screenings for breast cancer. Learn more about Stand Up for the Cure Lakeshore and register at suftc.org.
18 after the hour. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. Hope you have a good weekend planned. That'll be fun. If it's nice days, let's hope it is. Some nice days. We all want that. In case you missed it last night, Tigers win 4-3. Game 2 tonight. Tarik Skubal on the bump for Detroit. They are 6 games back in the division. They are 4 games back in the final wild card. That's an interesting in the den segment, and I wonder how many people are on board with that mindset. There's no question if you keep Tarik Skubal, you have a better chance at making the playoffs and you have a better chance at winning. Okay? Adding a few pieces is a very generic thing to say. I think most fans would like to be a little bit more specific. Can you tell us exactly what you're looking for? Because, and here's the other thing. You can't blame Tigers fans for being a little jaded because of the acquisitions Scott Harris has made. Be honest, how many have worked out? He didn't bring in Javier Baez. Not that that's worked out, but he didn't work. Gleyber Torres, I would say, for the most part, has worked out. Don't you? Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I think $22 million is a lot of money for him, but I think Jack Flaherty's making too much money too. It's worked out. Has Drew Anderson worked out? 4.25 ERA. A whip of 1.3. Has that been for a guy who spent 2 years in Japan, 2 years in Korea, has that worked out? Has he been what you expected? I would say no. It's not a heavy lift, not a lot of money. Justin Verlander, it hasn't worked out. Find me outside of Gleyber Torres. There's only so long that he can fall back on the Kevin McGonigal safety net. Okay? There's too many other. If you're going to look at Brad Holmes and say he hasn't done well in the second round, and we all agree that's a fair observation, should you not be able to say the same thing about Scott Harris's inability to bring in the right free agents? I would hope so. Otherwise, I don't think you're being fair. At least to Brad Holmes in that case. If you're going to do this, if you're going to keep him, and I've gone on record saying I wouldn't, but that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying I'm right here. There are many people who make a strong argument for keeping him. You better win, man. You better flip and win. Because what Tiger fans have experienced in the past, where this organization, whoever it's led by, has put itself in such a precarious situation to being taken advantage of and not getting what they expected. On the other hand, those of you out there who say, go for it, none of our GMs go for it. Do you not think keeping Tarik Skubal is going for it? I read that. Now, you could say go out and make a trade to get somebody. You got to be careful there too, because what is it you have that other teams want? What is so valuable for you as a Tiger fan? Jake Rogers isn't bringing anything. Okay. I hate to tell you that. There's not many guys. Do you want to trade Lorenzo? I don't care about prospects more oftentimes than not. More oftentimes than not. I would want to keep Max Clark. I would hope Bryce Rayner and Max Anderson are going to be your future. But if it's Briseño or Lorenzo, you got to trade one of them. Okay. I could swing that depending on what everybody wants. Just remember, when you're going for certain talent to try and fill in what you have not been able to acquire, other teams might be looking for that player too. And if they are, and they're willing to overspend, you going for it is not something fans will attribute to you as a general manager. That's going to be the hard thing to deal with. So I don't think we all know it's complicated. It's not easy just to say, look, you hang on to Tarek Skubal, you got a better chance at winning. Yeah, you do. But here's what you do have to remember. Other teams are going to get better at the deadline, unless you think you can win the division that way. So who are you going to get? How much is it going to cost you? And what kind of needs does it address? It doesn't always have to happen at the trade deadline. Remember what Cleveland did earlier this year with San Francisco? Are you aware the Patrick Bailey? Patrick Bailey for San Francisco was, well, it sure as hell wasn't working out. That otherwise they don't get rid of him, right? But Patrick Bailey with the Giants was in 30 games hitting 146 with 1 homer and a 396 OPS. He gets traded to Cleveland, and in 40 games, he's hitting 246, so 100 points higher. He's got 4 homers and an OPS of 699, 300 points higher. It doesn't always have to be a big name, as evident by that. I don't know what the reasoning behind that would be. I don't know if that's an indictment on San Francisco or an indictment on Cleveland or an indictment on both. But you're going to have a plan that makes sure you are able to accomplish that ultimate goal. Otherwise, you're going to be left with a draft pick. And you and I both know that is something we'll talk about for a long, long time. When you discuss, I can't believe we gave up John Smoltz for Doyle Alexander, who actually went 10-0 down the stretch and was an all-star the next year, was a primary reason they won in 1987, won the division in 1987, lost to the Twins, didn't get to the World Series. But he was the primary reason they were that successful down the stretch, and the next year was an all-star. And you're going to still bring that up because John Smoltz is a Hall of Famer. And you're going to bring up Justin Verlander to Houston for trash. J.D. Martinez to Arizona for trash. This will be mentioned in those, I can't believe he traded this guy or didn't trade this guy when he should have, because this is all we got for it, a draft pick of a guy who might spend his entire career in the minors. Because you never know what you're going to get. There's been plenty of times where we thought Mike Lago was going to be the next big thing for the Tigers, and he wasn't. There's been plenty of examples in Major League Baseball where guys have come up, Brendan Bosch, Chris Shelton, been really good for a short period of time and then weren't. So you better be right. And it's hard, but the job is hard. It's the reason you make a lot of money, and it's the reason that you are supposed to be in that position in the first place, is to make tough decisions. Steve Yzerman couldn't do that for the Red Wings. That's why he was bounced. The one good thing is that he hasn't signed one of the worst contracts in hockey. The Athletic came out with the NHL's 10 worst contracts this year. Leo Carlsson is one of them. Leo Carlsson's a really good player. Would love to have him on my team. I wouldn't pay him $18 million. There is one name on this 10 list that is not a Red Wing, but was connected to the Red Wings to a certain extent. I mean, Jacob Trouba's on this list. He's a Michigander, but he's not a Red Wing. The name that is one of the worst contracts on, Jake Wallman is on this list, used to be a Red Wing. And people are pissed off that Steve Yzerman didn't get enough for Jake Wallman, because when Anaheim turned around and traded him to Edmonton, they got a first-round pick. He hasn't been great there. But one of the names on this list for one of the worst contracts at number 10 is Elias Pettersson, who was one of the names mentioned in a possible acquisition by the Red Wings. Pettersson, the contract, $11.5 million for 6 years. He's the guy that many people at the trade deadline said, maybe the Red Wings should go out and get a guy like that. Not for that kind of money. How positive can he be for a team? Not very. I'm not saying Steve Eisman deserves a lot of credit, but at least he didn't make the deal that so many people thought he should make. All right, when we come back, final results of our poll question from yesterday and our poll question for today. After a 60-win season, the Pistons are surprisingly rather low in some writers' expectations for the upcoming season. We'll talk of that when we wrap things up on a Friday, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
The big shows are at Soaring Eagle. Eric Church.
All you gotta do is put a drink in my hand.
Friday, August 14th with special guest Ashley McBride. The Free the Machine Tour, part of the Soaring Eagle Summer Outdoor Concert Series. Tickets start at $87 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com.
Drink a little drink, smoke a little smoke.
The party starts with Eric Church plus Ashley McBride, August 14th at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Huge here for the Carmody brothers and all the Buffalo Wild Wings locations in Michigan. Hey, summer's in full swing. You can watch all the Tigers games at all Buffalo Wild Wings locations. Also, the football season will be here before you know it. Lions, Michigan, Michigan State, Central, Western, Eastern, Grand Valley, Ferris, Michigan Tech, Saginaw Valley State, Northwood, and more on all the TVs all season long and all Buffalo Wild Wings in Michigan.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sportsnet. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sportsnet Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Can I give you a name? Let me just give you a name. It's worth at least thinking about. When somebody says to you in your conversations this weekend, I don't know if tonight's going to be Tarek Skubal's last start for the Tigers. August 3rd is the trade deadline. Today's the 24th. Might be his last home start, but it won't be his last. I mean, he'll still he could squeeze another start in between now and August 3rd. Anyway, when we talk about trade prospects, I don't know what it would take to get this guy. He's 28 years old. If you're looking for someone who's got a little pop in his bat and he hits right-handed, what's one of the things that A.J. Hinch, Scott Harris specifically, love in players? I know, I roll my eyes all the time. Versatility. There's a guy out there I think you could get who's played every position except this year, except for shortstop and catcher. But he's not a pitcher. So, position player. He's played first, he's played second, he's played third. He's played every outfield spot. And he does it just fine. And he's hit 20 homers or more. Not that that's a lot, but he's got some pop in his bat, and he can make make the opposing pitcher think just a little bit. He's not a huge name, but he has hit 20 homers in each of the last 3 seasons, and so far this year hit 16. Cost you $4 million. Well, that's what he's making this year. Won't cost you that, but you pay the rest of his salary. He's arbitration eligible next year. You won't have to pay a lot of money for him. His name is Spencer Steer. He's a former draft pick of the Twins, I believe. Anyway, when I always talk about certain names, and I know that's not Luis Roberts 38, and he doesn't have a gold glove. Roberts does. Luis Robert does. But he can provide some pop. He can give you the versatility this franchise seems to totally embrace, even though I get tired of it. And he won't cost you a lot of money. And I don't think he'd cost you a lot to try and acquire either. Now, is he exactly what I would want? I mean, Dalton Varsho wouldn't be a bad acquisition. He could play outfield spots, but he's a left-handed stick. I was talking about strictly from a right-handed spot. And if you're looking for a pitcher, there's there are certain guys who are available. Hunter Green, but he's a starter. Most people want back-end bullpen relief. And Antonio Zensatella, he could do that. He could provide that for you. He's transitioned from a starter to the bullpen and done it pretty well. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's the one who gave up Miguel Cabrera's 3,000th hit, by the way. So those are a couple of names that I think wouldn't be a bad idea. If you're looking for a power arm, Brazoban from the Mets wouldn't be a bad choice. He's got good stuff. As you move forward, there you go. Not a bad way to go. Something to think about. All right. NBA rankings. I saw this in Yahoo Sports the other day. How does the Eastern Conference stack up, was their headline, after major offseason moves. Now, I looked at it and I said, okay, Pistons have acquired a three-point shooter in Isaiah Joe, a three-point shooter in John Collins. They still have some question marks about Jalen Duren, but he'll be here. He's a restricted free agent. So if he wants to play out the year and then become a free agent and try to find that money elsewhere, go right ahead. Nobody has been knocking on your door. Be careful when it comes to something like that. And then, of course, you got draft picks, so on and so forth. They've lost some. They've gained some. Would you call it even? Like, would you call it level, what the Pistons were able to do? And if that's the case, is it good enough to do what you did a year ago? Not necessarily win 60 games. That's a lot of wins. But be a threat in the playoffs? Is it enough? Yahoo Sports doesn't think it is. Here's how they rank the top teams in the Eastern Conference. It's not over yet. One of these teams might sign LeBron James. Maybe he'll have another special that ESPN will lick his boots on. I don't know. They've got the Knicks at number 1. They're worse than they were at the end of last season. Mitchell Robinson helped them hoist the Larry O'Brien Trophy. That's the point of the second apron, to bring the best teams to the pack, but they still have a great starting lineup. Cleveland is number 2. Boston is number 3. You almost can figure, okay, I get that. Respect the champions. A team that, took care of business against you, but then that team went out and beat that team. So Cleveland beat you, and you expect to be rated higher than them? Probably not. And let's face it, when healthy, Boston's still pretty damn good. All right? With Jason Tatum and Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, Paul George will be healthy. Anyway, Celtics added Mitchell Robinson, who we just mentioned. So they should be better. I'm surprised they're 3. I would think they would have been higher than that. They got Philly at 4. They got Toronto at 5 because of the addition of Kawhi Leonard. So that's where I started to squint just a little bit and go, wait a minute, what's going on here? Are we higher on our guys than the national media? Indiana is number 6. I think Tyrese Haliburton's a really good player. I don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. Is he going to be that impactful? Is he going to pick up where he left off? Was Indiana missing of him so important? Did one guy make that big of a difference? Apparently they think so. Number 7, they have Miami. Giannis Antetokounmpo, obviously. They don't bring up the players they've lost, Tyler Hero, but they bring up the guy that they acquired. Then they come to the Pistons. They've got the Pistons at 8, just above Orlando, who, remember, granted, many people will consider an underachiever a year ago, but they did deal quite a bit with injuries. Here's what they write about with the Pistons at 8. Good teams are going to fall into the play-in tournament, and I think last year's number 1 seed in the East is among the teams to take a major step backward. Isaiah Stewart is no small loss. Swapping Tobias Harris for John Collins is a wash at best. I don't know if I'd go that far. Younger player, better three-point shooter, John Collins. The leadership aspect might be something to keep an eye on. Although, at some point, someone's got to take the mantle of leadership with every team, but especially with the Pistons. If, quote-unquote, Unk was so important, and he was, I'm not going to disregard the importance of his presence in that locker room and on the bus and on the floor in tight moments or needful moments. But my hope is people have learned enough from him where they can start to be that guy, even though they're not that advanced in age and in years in the league. They have yet to re-sign Jalen Duren, who will presumably return. He lost confidence from his all-NBA form in the playoffs, and he's been negotiated down on his contract. I don't see how that increases his belief in himself. Well, it probably doesn't. But could you not argue this too? The reason he hasn't signed is because he does believe in himself. He thinks he's worth more. The reason he was going out trying to get other teams involved in him or get to take a liking to him is because of his belief in himself. I think athletes, I've said this to them all the time. It's amazing to me how you can reach the level you've reached and still lose confidence. It can be fleeting. Anybody who's accomplished anything should be confident, but they could also lose their confidence. It's how you regain it, right? Now, I'm not going to try to convince you that they have done everything they possibly can to make Cade Cunningham's life a little bit easier, because they have not. Did John Collins, Isaiah Joe, Ibuka Okori, would you have taken a swap of those 3 guys for Tobias Harris, Isaiah Stewart, Marcus Sasser? Because we know the challenges. I was just talking with somebody last night at Little Caesars Arena. I went to the Big 3 game, and I noticed, I was talking to some people there, and they're like, we got to get Cunningham some help. The franchise player needs a secondary scorer. The moves made did not solve that issue. I didn't realize this. The Pistons' top 8 players all logged at least 1,700 minutes. The Pistons' top 8 players all appeared in at least 72 games. That means there could be, some people feel like there could be regression because of that. Can they count on elite defense again? That's a really tough thing to do, especially when you lost 2 really good defenders in Isaiah Stewart and in Karis LeVert. I know LeVert was not always available, but when he was out there, he's an elite defensive player. So that's a tough one that you're going to have to deal with. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline, 866-838-4843. Text us, Sports Radio 21,000. We get to the final results of the poll question here on X's and Bros. We have one for you every single day. It's the Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question of the day. We asked you yesterday this question: which player handling of their situation bothers you more? Dylan Larkin. Forget that he took his shirt off. He doesn't look like he's in great shape, and he's watching a soccer game while drinking a beer. It's okay for an athlete to every once in a while have a beer. A lot of guys drink it afterwards. Isn't it interesting that, we didn't say much about, well, I shouldn't say we, way back in the day, how many people were criticizing Bobby Lane for drinking beers and smoking cigarettes? It's a famous picture of Lenny Dawson, halftime of the Super Bowl, smoking a cigarette. You wouldn't have that today. Tom Brady wouldn't even be around secondhand smoke, for crying out loud. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm just saying everyone's ripping on Dylan Larkin because of what a picture of him at the World Cup. Suddenly, athletes can't be fans. They're supposed to either be at home, changing diapers with their wife when they're not working out, and they're supposed to be, drinking green milkshakes and making sure everything that goes into their body is 100% natural. I don't care if one of my athletes is drinking a beer and having a good time once in a while. I care about how they produce. Anyway, Dylan Larkin, Tarek Skubal, or Jalen Duren. Skubal, because of the recent article that he says, it's taken out of context, even though it was his quotes. And Duren, because, well, he wants more than he's worth and more than what the Pistons are willing to pay. I'm a little surprised. I'm probably most surprised at Dylan Larkin asking for a trade. Then I'd be second surprised at Jalen Duren not recognizing what his worth is. Anyway, how did people vote, Brett?
51% of people said Dylan Larkin. 35% said Tarek, and then 14 said Jalen Duren.
Okay. It's really not that surprising because anytime an athlete asks to be traded, it's frustrating, but it's also, I think it smarts even more for Red Wings fans and state of Michigan fans because he's a homegrown guy. How can you not want to play for your hometown team? That's what many people think. And asking to be out of here is a little extreme for many. Speaking of out of here, Patrick King went to Chicago. You saw that yesterday. That was breaking just as we were getting off the air. He signed a 2-year deal with the Blackhawks for $16 million, $8 million per year. That to me is ridiculous. That to me is one of the most irresponsible contracts that you can have. Like Chicago wants to bring him back. I think it's cool. Come on back where you started. Van Halen song, finish what you started. That's great. $8 million for a guy who had 16 goals last year. Really? That's stunning to me. Why in the world would you spend that kind of money for maybe it's nostalgia, but obviously he's still a good player. Power play, maybe. Alex DeBrincat had over 40 goals last year. Okay. He doesn't make $8 million a year. He makes 7.875. That is bizarre, man. Really bizarre. This is what happens sometimes. People they get caught up in a moment. Okay. Yesterday, ESPN, Kevin Seifert, who spent most of his years covering the Vikings, had written a story. But it was about the Packers winning the division. Maybe the Vikings challenging. I don't think he gave enough credit to the Lions in that case. Storyline is, as somebody responded to me, is that if our offensive line can be back in the upswing, our offense can get back to dominating top 10 defenses. The other storyline, did we do enough to retool the pass rush and the secondary to elevate our defense? I think the pass rush, you're sure hopeful. I think they've done quite a bit with it. I think it should be enough. The offensive line should be back in the upswing. It's the secondary first and foremost, whereas a year ago, we went into training camp highly concerned with the offensive line, and justifiably so. We were right about that. I would tell you, I think the same level of concern, maybe even deeper, is going into camp this year at the secondary. Because at least last year, we all recognized you still had Aiden Hutchinson. This year, who do you have in the secondary who you think is really good and trustworthy? Nobody. You may like DJ Reed, and as I brought up with Tim Twentyman 2 days ago, DJ Reed before the injury, really good. After the injury, not so much. Well, we still want to be convinced because we're not convinced just yet. Kevin Seifert, in the meantime, said that the North projections I posted this week via ESPN Analytics giving the Vikings the lowest chance to win the division. What happens if the percentages are right? The Vikings miss the playoffs. Those percentages, he went with Green Bay first and foremost, based on analytics. Games are being decided by analytics. Managers and coaches are being swayed by analytics. Writers are too. Our thanks to Brett Hayes for all week long helping us out on our program. He'll be back with Bill Simonson later on this afternoon, 3 to 7 here on these same great station affiliates. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We're back with you Monday morning, 6 a.m. on X's and Bros, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
Do you have old retirement accounts still at former employers that could use some attention? Do you have accounts that the only time you hear from the advisor is when you call them? It might be time to take stock of your retirement and stop settling for less than you deserve. Having retirement accounts doesn't equal having a retirement plan. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Stop procrastinating and let's coordinate your retirement accounts and make sure you have a plan for success in retirement. At Mitch Lyons Wealth, we help people make sense of all the moving parts of retirement: taxes, income, risk, Social Security, healthcare, and legacy. It all works together, so let's make sure all parts of your plan are working together and not fighting themselves. Let's create a retirement of steel. Contact us today to schedule a brief chat to talk about your situation. If it makes sense, we can talk further. If you're good as is, we'll let you know that too. Go to MitchLyonsWealth.com or text PLAN to 844-867-8335. That's PLAN to 844-867-8335. Investment advisory services are offered by MLW Advisory Services, a state registered investment advisor.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest